G'day everybody. You call this story time education on how I've always, mostly 90% you could say, or 80% at least, if I could do it, I did. Kind of thing, if I didn't just get thrown out or something bad happened instantly. Because I have boarded around a long time ago for a while, right? And this is how it goes. And I've been at caravans and cabins and all sorts of things, right, as I've boarded around. And when I boarded around, I learnt over time. At first, I was lazy. When I was first young, I was basic. I did a little bit. It wasn't totally lazy. I haven't never been as lazy as I've seen people. But I didn't do much unless I got asked to, or if I thought there was a lot of work that's getting done from someone, and I might help out a little bit. That's how I first started off. But then over time, I realised if I've got plenty of time off, it's best to help out more. And as you help out, you learn your lessons and you learn stuff. So I did that. That's me. And when I leave places or borrow things, I like to keep it clean the way I got it, or if not better. So if it wasn't clean, I'd clean it. Because I'd do onto the product or what I'm borrowing how I would treat it, how I treat things. And I treat things pretty good. So it's good to lend me stuff, as if I break it or damage it, I'll try my best to replace it or wouldn't forget and go, yes, I did that. And if I could replace it, I will. And which is what I did in pretty much 80% of the things that I've touched and broken and borrowed. So when you go do that, you might get, and people get to know you, and they know that you do that with your own stuff and you do that naturally. People might want to lend you things. But when you don't show things like that, you might not want to be lent. And you can get a reputation. Everyone has a reputation. What is a reputation? That is what you do over time. And people can always look back, unless, of course, you can pay people to make up things or pay people not to say things. But most people know who you mostly are, because if you're mostly you, it's pretty hard to hide 30 years of you or 20 years of you from people, no matter how much money you got, unless they got a lot of money and people really need it and never had honour or love that you met, right? Because you see movies where people have actually tried to make people go invisible, right? By wiping them out in technology, but you need more than just technology to wipe out a person. But anyway, when it comes to me, I like to be clean. And I like to do things that make me feel good. So after time of doing things, it becomes, you like doing it. Like they talked about the story of Persephone that fell in love with her worst nightmare because she was just there, and you learn to live with it. And is that really love? But anyway, it can be possible. You just change yourself, and then you might hold to love, wouldn't you? Because you become a different you. But when it comes to me, I like to do what I do. And at the moment, I am where I am because of things that are happening. But I do think bigger, and I plan for that. And I also plan for when it could happen. And till it happens, you live the way you live. You do what you do until that happens, right? And so what I'm doing right now is I'm tidying up. Even though I'd rather move, there's a lot of things I'd rather do. It all depends on life. But at this particular time for me, if I had an opportunity, it means if I got a sudden one lottery, got a sudden influx of money, which gives most people a lot of opportunities, true, which will help me in my life. I wouldn't want to live here. Depends on how much money I got too. Like say a big figure, I definitely wouldn't. A small figure, I might travel and still stay here, right? But travel to go rethink and re-look around about my options. But while you're in what you're in, you do your best what you can do. And so I am. As you can see, I've showed videos over time for when I've made that choice of leaving or not. But if I'm going to leave, I've got to make sure things are tidy. And I'll try my best to make sure before I leave if it's the right decision to leave. Right? And so I'm tidying up the backyard, and I've come to a few conclusions. And when I finished my own mission, like the yard's fully tidied up, I've sorted out a few other issues, I will make my final decision, which is the best way to do things and the most patientliest way. And when I do, and say I move from here, I wouldn't take everything from here. I would like to leave it, I would leave things that I find, if I had money and a new opportunity to. If you don't have money and you're desperate, you would take as much as you need to help you in the next part. But if you've got all that help, then you don't need to so much. You take what is to your heart then, not to what could be a value or reuse. And so when I leave here, I'll be taking the grave section there, digging it up a little bit. I might leave a little bit of a plaque there or something, but I wouldn't leave too much that I know that's not so standard, as people like to make their own path anyway. You might get lucky and someone might like what you like when you sell a house in that case. But when it comes to being in a rental property, you don't need to leave too much, as everyone likes to be themselves and will change things. And they might just rip up all that thing that you thought that they might like. And you could have used it maybe. Huh? So then you would take it, hey? Or you would leave it if you don't mind. So when it comes to me, I would take the main things like my stories, like the pyramids that would be removed or taken, right? So I could take chunks off its concrete, be broken up, and I can redo what I've done somewhere else. Right? And the tiles, right, I would leave if they didn't mind, and if I didn't need them in another place, if I knew I could get other materials, I would leave them there. Otherwise, I would take the tiles and then clean it up and leave it all nice and just the gravel like that. And the stump, I will decide it might take that too if I could. It might not, as it has a story to me, and it's rotten and it's just a stump and it doesn't need to be there. And so if it's a story to me, it has more right as I can see, and I'll debate people if they don't believe that, as it was rubbished to where it was, it's chopped down and it wants to be gone. So to me, it has a story, and then it could come with me, and I might remove that to keep that story. And it's the same when it comes to my gravestones. Every little gravestone I will remove and take, but the roses would stay, basic plants would stay. I'd keep it a nice basic look. And it would usually always be better than what it was when I turned up. Because when I turned up here, everything was dying. And the grass at the back was out, and you had a patch of grass and that was going good. And the trees were still kicking at that time. But when it comes to the other side, it was left too long and all the plants died off. And it was just a couple of little bits of shrub that hanged on for a while, which I ended up eventually moving. And I removed the little paper tree that used to be at the front where my garden is. It used to just be a half a paper tree that used to be out here, a pretty big one, as big as that, but a bit more wider. And no, it was a wattle tree, sorry. I think it grew wattles. It was a wattle tree, sorry. And it created bees. My dad's allergic to bees. I like bees. I can hang around bees. I'm not allergic to them. But being at your front door and people being allergic to bees wasn't a good thing. When I had a few incidents where the bees were all around at certain days and people didn't want to come in as there was too many bees. So I removed it. Plus it wasn't that stable, as it could only go so deep there, sort of landing, and not very good. So I removed it. And at that time, I wasn't into nature as much as I was now. If I removed it now, I would have probably saved it and put it in another spot. But back then, I was working and doing other things, and I just removed it to get the job done quick. But anyway, I thought I'd talk about being clean and being who you are. And if you leave things better than what they were, no one could ever complain, and you should get more of a better reputation. So it's a good thing to do things like that, because when you do the opposite, well, then you would get a reputation of that, and people do. Right? And then those type of people like to keep their reputation quiet, where if you get a good reputation, you can just let it go. You can even speak it and be proud of it. True? But when I stayed at even the caravan park and stuff like that, the cabins there were basically clean, like staying in hotels where they look sort of clean, but then you look closer and there's all mould and crap in the corners like this. And when I left the cabin or a caravan, those things were spick. I'd be bored in those little things. I got a lot after I did what I needed to do for the day, and I like to be clean myself, and I do a lot of cleaning before I went to these places. And so in the end, I cleaned all around the windows. It was like a beautiful clean. I even laughed when I left, because they had a little mini ovens, little mini ovens and a microwave. There was spit. When I turned up, the mini oven was clean, but it had the oven clean, like dirtiness a little bit in it, and yucky, and I had to hit it with oven cleaner and around the switches and stuff like that, which is all fine through standards. It was only just basic stuff, and it might have been coming up to a clean, but I cleaned it anyway. And I cleaned all the nice little shower out and the whole the whole little cabin inside, except the outside so much. I didn't have a pressure washer, but I kept the spiders down and kept the best with a cloth and bucket and stuff, and kept it all nice and clean for the few months that I was in there. And if you ever want to check that up, you can. It was just outside of Frankston on a corner. I can't remember exactly the name, but I'd be happy to take you there and talk about stories and wonder if they changed owners or anything like that. Because I was there. And the houses that I applied for when I was there and that I nearly got to, like I nearly got a house that was full of termites just for 6 months to a year before I got knocked down right on the beach. Well, pretty much crossed the road on a corner, and you crossed the road, and then there was just a little bit more houses, and there was pretty much the beach, and there was a road there, and it was all open up here. I can remember with photographic memory of where it was, and it was just down the road for the caravan park that I was staying at. But anyway, that was the second time I come back. The first time I was just staying with my sister, I didn't do that. But then when me and Emma first got together and we first actually left together this town and tried to try somewhere new for a new, it didn't quite get to work out for us. And we did try, and we nearly got there, but at that time and on with no license, we had to travel around a lot. It just, we couldn't afford it on Centrelink benefits. On hers and mine, just single, trying to go somewhere to become a couple, you know what I mean? And you still couldn't do it. And you get paid a little bit more that way, so it's not like if we become a couple, we would have got paid more to succeed in that. It actually would have made it worse. Because we looked all that up. We try to make everything the best as possible and see what would work out the best for us. But yeah, not much would help unless benefits. The only things that truly help you in the end, that you get somewhere when you're struggling, when you're on benefits on Centrelink, is food places and other places that you can find, because not everything's advertised. So the better you do that, the more likely you can get further than other people. And they go, how'd you get further? Either you helped people and got a little extra cash from helping people, or they helped you because you helped them, or that you went to these places more often than the others. That's all there is to it. Or if they're selling drugs or something behind the scenes, but that doesn't usually happen. But you can only assume that stuff if you know they're bad or something like that. But you shouldn't ever assume the worst or why people have got what they got. Just assume they've got it, and then over time, if you want to know and get to know them, people around them would know them and get to know them. But anything can be hidden. We all know that. But anyway, I'm starting to blab now. Have a good one, and bye-bye, as I've got to quickly go do something. Because it's daylight savings, and we do run on noise time, but I'm not going to be noisy. The only thing I've got to go is a little bit of pressure washing. And we're just after 5 now. We got up to 7 o'clock, technically, what the internet tells us and all that. But it all depends on the people around you, as I've talked about when it comes to noise complaints. So you have a time limit, and it depends on the people around you and stuff and circumstances. But I'm sure I'll be pretty right, hopefully, and I'll only be using it for about 10 minutes to pressure wash it. Just going around for a second, just at the front there, between a few houses, to clean off the concrete. And I'm just going to put down a little bit more black, so I'm just going to do 1 wheelbarrow of black, quickly put it down. I'm sweating right now, it's hot, and I've tried to wait for it to cool down, but it's one of those days where it doesn't change too much. So I'm just going to go out there and quickly do it now. I've done all me huffing and puffing and all the 65 roasters things to do to feel the best I can to do the job I need to do. It's good to try to get ready for things like that. You wouldn't want to be forced into things too much, otherwise you get sick and unhealthy and don't go good, which I've been there before. So that's why it's best with people with 65 roasters, as far as I'm concerned. And if you can work, is to try to work for yourself, or work with family, or work with people that will really work with you with your illness and not make you a money dollar sign. But anyway, people, have a good one, and I'm going to quickly make up this batch of black. Just put down the black, that's all I got to do, just quick, one black, nothing fancy like I did the other day, and then just let it dry. So it should take too long for that, and let it sit there for half an hour or a little bit to dry, and then give it a quick pressure wash. And then tomorrow I could do a couple of little touch-up. I've noticed with the white, I was a little short, and it wasn't quite deep enough, so I might just have to put a little bit more white on the white, or the black. I'll find that up tomorrow and do the touch-ups with the last little bit, and that's the plan. And then put that on top of it. Me plugs out there before the rain comes down and gives me a problem when it comes to the plugs. I'll have to turn them off. But anyway, bye bye.